Hello. Took me a minute to get this thing to actually let me change my class, but I'll be talking with you guys today more about the Druid class, their subclasses, uh, more information about them, their race, some interesting races to choose from, skills, equipment, spells, what have you, and just kind of what happens during a basic level up. So I use Withers here. I'm going to turn Shadowheart here into a Druid. So as a level 1 druid, druids are more of like the class you'd use to like kind of interact with and change into any kind of form of like creatures or beasts. So like they have this ability where they can change into like a bear or an owl bear and do a bunch of cool things. They have multiple damage inducing spells at their repertoire. Wisdom is their primary attribute for casting those spells, and they are proficient in wisdom and intelligence saving throws. Um, their hit dice is a d8, and they can use pretty much any simple weapons, light and medium armor, and even shields. So just because you're a nature caster, if you will, doesn't mean that you can't use weapons as well. From a race perspective, druids, I mean, pretty much anything. Um, human, humans, um, elves all come into play because of what I've covered in the past here of just, they can't be magically put to sleep. They have dark vision. They get a free cantrip that elves do. Gnomes and halflings are always a good, interesting choice. So things of that nature. From an attribute perspective, like I had mentioned, wisdom is the primary thing that you'd want to have. Um, want to have set pretty high. What happened here? Oh, it didn't reset. Weird. The game's been acting weird today. So I'm going to put all my points here into wisdom as high as I can. Next, I would say dexterity. Like I usually like to get everything up to 10. So let's do that first. And then we can tweak it from there later. Um, Decent constitution, so you can hold yourself into a fight. Decent strength or dexterity based on whatever kind of weapon you're deciding to use. If you are doing more of like a ranged druid or a short sword kind of based using druid, maybe dexterity. Also, dexterity lets you, if you're planning on wearing some light and medium armors, but depending on what subclasses you pick as a druid, armor really won't be an issue because you're going to be changing your shape all the time. So I still recommend at least having some decent dexterity, but for me, this is a decent starting point. Everything's at least 10 or higher. I could always drop my charisma out so I could gain some more points here. Oh, it won't let me. That's dumb. Oh, because it took 2 points. Derp. Be able to increase my, Dex or Constitution up by another score. Let's just do con. From a skill perspective, I mean, you're really gonna be out there. Nature, nature, animal handling are always two good things to go with, just because you're most likely going to be the one dealing with a lot of animals, what have you. I would say perception and survival, potentially arcana, depending on how you want to play your character. With survival, it's basically just your ability to track things. Perception is your ability to just kind of perceive your surroundings so you don't, get killed by a trap. um, like I mentioned here earlier, from an equipment perspective, you're using simple weapons, so short swords, daggers, pikes. Let's see, everything that's listed over here. Oh, maybe it's not. What the heck? Oh, sorry, simple weapons. So not a short sword, quarterstaffs, things of that nature. But as a druid, you get at level 1, you get a What is this? Cantrip? You get a cantrip, Schlega, which basically lets you turn a staff or club into a magical weapon, and it deals 4 to 11 damage off of it. So like for the next 10 turns, you have this weapon that can do pretty good damage. So like coming out the gate, your first play could always be cast that, turns your quarterstaff into a magical weapon. You can gain here at level 1, sorry. On top of this, you gain 2 cantrips, and you also gain a level 1. Sorry, let me dial back. My notes crossed. You have access to 2 cantrips and 2 level 1 spell uses. So from a cantrip's perspective, it defaults to Shelga, but that's also something I would recommend for what I just talked about here. Thorn Whip lets you pull things closer to you. That could be kind of useful. If it was me, Produce Flame is redundant because due to actually Produce Flame because I think the only reason I'm getting Firebolt is because something with her as a character. But Produce Flame would always be a good choice. At level 2, you gain the ability so that you can, let's see here. At level 2 is when you start getting your subclasses. So at level 2, it defaulted me to Circle of the Land, but you get your health bonus, you get a class feature, you also gain Wild Shape. Where is it here? Take that back. Wow, my notes got messed up. Alright, sorry, everybody gets Wild Shape. So Wild, that's why I couldn't find it, because it goes to everyone. But Wild Shape is your ability to assume the form of these. Basically, you take on that creature's abilities, shape. You assume their stats, so whatever their HP, strength, dexterity, armor class, etc. That's what you get. And once that HP has been used up, you transfer back into your normal state. The difference between a lot of these different classes you'll see is that when I start going through them, some of them you can only do it, like for Circle of the Land here, twice per short rest. Same thing for Circle of the Moon. Okay, so it is twice per short rest. But as you go through it, eventually you can start doing these more at will, depending on what subclass you pick. So with Circle of the Land, we'll start with this one. Circle of the Land is more of you get basically more elemental spells. So at level 2, you gain Natural Recovery, which gives you the ability to replenish any expended spell slots without or while you're out of combat. On top of that, you can start getting you get additional cantrips, mostly because you do. And these are just more or less off that first list that I didn't already choose from, so I'll just choose Poison Cloud in this case. Looking here. Then when I level us up to level 3, you'll gain the ability to select a land type. Actually, let me just let's see here. Level. Yeah, sorry. It's my notes are all over the place today. Get access to some of your level 1 spells. A lot of these are more, like I said, elemental, resource based, what have you. Circle of the Moon. Let's stay with land. Let's stay with land. We're just going to stay with land. We're going to go back a level. I'm going to do something here. We're going to hit a 5. Save, level us up. I'll go through a level up on Circle of the Land, and then I'll go through level up with the rest. So like I mentioned, I get my spell. Let's go ahead and make myself level 3 as Circle of the Land. So at level 3, you start getting access to, just as a druid, you're getting more cantrips, access to level 2 spells, things of that nature. And then, as part of our subclass here, at level 3 I can choose a circle of land that basically I want to go back. You gain a passive ability, and more or less with these, this type of land, you gain 2 spells from. You gain two spells from that specific list of land that you pick. So Arctic will gain Whole Person and Spike Growth. Coast, Mirror Image, and Misty Step. Desert, Blur and Silence. Forest is Bark Skin and Whole Person. Grassland, we get Invisibility or Pass Without Trace, and Pass Without Trace. Mountain, we get Mirror Image and Spike Growth. Swamp, we get Darkness and Melf's Acid Arrow. And then Underdark, we gain Web and Misty Step. So with these, Misty Step lets you basically transport yourself farther away out of battle. Web is a way to kind of like hold enemies in place. Darkness, it'll blind people, anybody in that circle. And then Melf's Acid Arrow is just a very souped up magical arrow that you can cast. Spike Growth is just, it does overall damage. It's an area of effect of 6 meters. So anything that's inside that circle is going to continually take this damage every time they stay inside it. Mirror Image is very good for trying to up your armor class. More or less for each one of the illusions that are alive, your AC goes up by 3. Pass Without Trace, in short, adds 10 to your stealth checks, everyone's stealth checks. That Invisibility does just that. It makes you invisible. Attacks against you have a disadvantage, and you attack with advantage because, well, no one can see you. Holds Person lets you hold a person in place. Bark Skin gives you more AC. It ups it to 16. So as a druid, if you don't have much armor, then this might be for you. Desert, you get Silence, which basically no audible sound can come out of the casting area of this. And then Blur lets you have disadvantage for the attackers when they attack against you. Misty Step and Mirror Image we already covered. And then same thing with Whole Person. So I personally kind of like being able to, depends on how I'm going to play my character. If I'm going to play them more as a support druid, Silence would be helpful. Whole Person, if I'm planning on doing a decent amount of damage and sneaking around, maybe I'm multi-classed into like a rogue, then Grassland would be helpful. If I want, like, I like Swamp just because I usually play a ranged druid, so I just keep chucking out arrows, and then so Melf's Arrow would come in handy for me. At level 4, We gain access to another cantrip because of our subclass, and we gain the ability to wild shape into a deep growth, and we get a feat. So there's a lot of cool things that happen at this level. At level 5, we can choose another land type. So if you've already picked swamp, then we'd have to pick something else. At level 6, as a Circle the Land Druid, difficult terrain no longer is an issue for you. At level 7, we gain another land type to choose from, but this time it's a level 4 kind of spells we gain instead of level 2. And also, I'll circle back at level 5. When you pick your land, you actually get level 3 spells from that list. At level 9 of this character, you can choose another land, and you gain level 5 spells from their list. And then at level 10, you can no longer be charmed or frightened by elemental or fey, and disease and poison have no effect on you. So if you want to gain a lot of different elemental-based spells or just land-based things of that nature, Circle of the Land Druid might be for you, especially the difficult terrain no longer affecting you. Let's see, will it let me? It will let me upload in the middle of a level up. So once this loads, next I'll be talking about the Circle the Moon subclass. So at level 2, if I go through here and I say that I want to be a Circle the Moon Druid, you gain access to Combat Wild Shape, which basically lets you wild shape as a bonus action. I believe it actually does it for everyone. Everyone does it. Looks like it's the same thing for both. Oh, that's what it is. Sorry. No. Yes. No. Ah, that's the difference. Basically, you get access to, you get a different set of things to transform into. Okay, sorry. They're druids are fun. But you can wild shape as a bonus action, just like before. You get access to a bonus action called Lunar Mend, which lets you expend one of your spell slots to regain HP while you're in wild shape form. And then wild shape, you can take on the ability of a bear, or so you basically are a polar bear in this case. You can goad enemies into attacking you. You have 30 HP, and every 2 levels of Druid, this goes up, which is really nice actually. Let me pin it. There we go. While you're wild shaping, you can't basically talk, what have you. And then when you drop to 0, you drop back to your normal form. Very similar to the rest of these. So when you do wild shape as any class, you can become a... this is just telling you the same thing. You can become a badger, a spider, a wolf, a cat, or if you choose Circle the Moon, like I mentioned, you can become a bear. Which, who wouldn't want to do that? At level 3, you just get your basic Druid upgrade, where we get access to level 3 spells, and we get some class features. Basically, we have our level 2 spells unlocked, and level 1 spells are unlocked as well. So we get access to a good amount of things here. At level 4, as a wild shape druid, we get access to what we normally would, our Deep Growth, but in addition, we can become a Dire Raven. And this Raven allows you to basically blind folks. I'll let you guys kind of, if you want to pick a Druid, feel free to go through everything here of all these different subclass, of all the different beasts that you can go into. There's a lot of different buffs and things you can do by just being these different wild shapes. At level 6, as a Circle of the Moon Druid, you gain Primal Strike, which when you're in beast form, now all your attacks are magical. So when you start hitting against things that have resistances against normal weapons, now at least your your beast form attacks are all magical. At level 8, you can take on, you can wild shape into a tiger. And at level 10, you gain the ability to wild shape into an air, earth, fire, or water elemental. You gain all the basic benefits of being a druid at these different levels, but from a Circle of the Moon perspective, I would recommend picking them if you primarily want to more or less just kind of live for a while and do different abilities. Like I had mentioned here, the different shapes you get, like for a Dire Raven, you can blind enemies. You don't have a lot of HP, but you can do certain things to maybe wild shape into this and just, wreak havoc on things. So if you want to have the ability to just kind of transform to a bunch of different kind of creatures, Wild Shape Druid or Circle of the Moon Druid is probably for you. This will leave us with the Circle of Spores Druid. So a Circle of Spores Druid is basically to me, more of a poison-based kind of druid option. You'll gain access to the same things as before. We can wild shape. We can wild shape to these specific creatures, but instead of some other things, we get Halo of Spores, which unleashes a cloud of toxic spores on the creature. For a D4, our damage is a reaction, so we actually we have other things to use our reaction for. Symbolic Entity, you gain 4 temporary HP per round, 8 temporary HP per round. Let's see here. Oh, per druid level. That's why math is hard. So because I'm a level 2 druid, yeah. So 8 temporary hit points. It'll go up every time you level up. And you deal an additional 1d6 of necrotic damage if you have your temporary HP. And when you cast Halo of Spores, it does double damage. So now it's going to do 2d4 instead of 1d4 worth of damage. You also get an extra cantrip called Bone Chill, which will basically stop a creature from being able to heal itself, and the target receives disadvantage on attack rolls. So, quite honestly, Bone Chill is a very nice cantrip. All it is it's just at a range. As long as you hit them, you can really control enemies, because the enemy won't be able to receive any healing, and then they also have disadvantage on attack rolls. So let's say you have that big guy chasing you down, you could be like, nope, Bone Chill, mother effer, and then they're just stuck. Well, not stuck, but like then they have disadvantage on their attacks against people. It doesn't require concentration. It's a really nice thing to have. At level 3, or where we have 3, we gain access specifically to the blindness spell and detect thought spells because we're this druid. Detect thoughts lets you read the mind of creature you select. Blindness, like I mentioned, just kind of makes it to where people can't see and they just have a really hard time trying to hit anything because they're blind. At level 4, we gain a cantrip from the list here provided. It's usually the list that we had before. At level 5, you gain Animate Dead, which lets you animate a servant from a dead corpse. And Gaseous Form lets you turn yourself or allies into a gas cloud to kind of escape, if you will. At level 6, we gain Fungal Infection, which lets us raise a zombie from a corpse. Level 7, we deal 8d8 necrotic damage to someone. We gain that with this Blight spell. And then we also gain Confusion to where we can confuse a target to either wander away, skip their turn, or just attack something at random. At level 9, we gain access to the Cloud Kill spell, which lets you deal 5d8 poison damage, and you can move away as a bonus action. And then Contagion, which causes a target to be diseased based on the options that the spell can provide. And at level 10, you get Spreading Spores, which you can move a cube of spores that deals the same amount of damage as your Halo of Spores damage is. So if you want to be like that really heavy poison dealing caster druid, like I always think of these guys, these kind of the subclass is like Poison Ivy, where you're just dropping debuff spells, this, that, and the next thing at somebody. But that's it really for Circle of Spores. So an overall of these 3 classes, if you want to have the ability to have a bunch of elemental spells and ignore terrain for difficult terrain, I would say Land Druid. If you want to shapeshift into a bunch of different creatures and have honestly limitless HP, it almost feels like, because if you do that twice and you get access to higher CR creatures, you'll last longer, you'll have more things you can do. It's a lot of context switching, I will say. But that's the benefit of that, is that instead of getting all these extra spells, you gain the ability to just turn into different creatures and you kind of get abilities more instead of spells. And then Spore Druid, if you want to do a bunch of elemental poison or poison-based damage to creatures. At level 4 of a Druid, you gain, we already talked about this, but Deep Growth, which is another creature wild shape, and you gain a feat. At level 5, you gain Wild Strike, which makes you make an additional attack after making an unarmed strike in your wild shape form. At level 6, you can become an owl bear or a panther as part of wild shape. At levels 7, you gain more spells. You get access to level 4s. Level 8, you gain a feat. Level 9, you get access to level 5 spells. Level 10, you get improved Wild Strike. You can make 2 additional attacks after making an unarmed strike in your wild shape instead of just 1. And at level 11, you get level 6 spells. And then level 12, you gain a feat. So if I finish this off here, I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to take a random feat of, let's see, I am a druid. I'm just going to become resilient and give myself more con. So because of this, I now have, since I'm level 4, I have 4 level 1 spells and 3 level 2 spells. And I can have access to a bunch of different cantrips. So now I'm a druid. I can do druid things. Like, I want to be... I'm going to pick wild shape, and I'm going to say, I have no idea what this is, so I'm going to make this. Boom. I've now become Evil goat man.
I must keep going.
If I charge against you. Charge. Oh, can't be an ally. That's not fun. Cast dancing lights, which is cool. Can chew a charge attack. And I can dismiss my wild shape as part of my turn. So let's see. Let's do Halo Spores here. Wild shape into a spider. And I'll have spider stuff only available in combat, of course. But I might be able to, might be able to do some cool things. I'm not allowed to attack. Well, here we go. Haha. Suck it. I must not be allowed to attack my teammates. That's not fun. But as you can see, like I can just dismiss this. I'm outside of combat, which is part of the reason why I'm able to do this so many times. But here's my oh, I already used it. Maybe is that why? Probably. Yep, I can no longer do it. But from like my level 2 spells here, if I say blindness, okay, can't be an ally. Either way, these are all the different kind of things you can do. Like I have a lesser restoration spell, or I can cast Long Strider on myself. There's a lot of different things you can do as those different kind of druids. So, as always, if there's anything that I may have missed or you like added from your own experiences, feel free to pop it in the chat or the comments below. And as always, happy gaming.